there, patreon.com/kindafunnygames. It's me, Greg Miller from the Kinda Funny Gamescast, and I'm here to tell you it's all over finally. Kinda Funny is out. No, what's happening, ladies and gentlemen, is simple. You are getting a very weird Gamescast video/audio from me right now because Gamescast, when it goes live on youtube.com/kindafunnygames Monday morning, will have embargoed information, an embargoed preview that I can't tell you what it is, and I can't tell you about it, obviously. So, embargoed thing there that we're going to discuss on the Gamescast, but we can't show you ahead of time for your pre-release early access content. But what we're doing is taking that piece of embargoed information, your normal Gamescast intro, and putting it together with 2 interviews we've been sitting on that we're pretty proud of. So what I'm going to do here is I'm giving you this little intro where I talk to you. I say, hey, Kev Dog! And say hey to Kevin. And then we're going to go to those 2 interviews. So you get those early, and then if you want to hear about the game someone played somewhere, you have to come Monday, youtube.com/kindafunnygames. Of course, we don't like doing this. You understand, though. Embargoes, that's how it is, and you come to us for that. So thank you, of course, for your support on patreon.com/kindafunnygames. Couldn't do it without you. Let's go to the first interview. We're going to start with the most recent one you've heard of. All right? If you remember on Kinda Funny Games Daily, a few weeks ago, I did a story about where the water tastes like wine. It was a blog post, or a Medium post, that had been published where the developer of Where the Water Tastes Like Wine basically said, hey, it wasn't a commercial success, and we had all this stuff going for us, previews on IGN, all this different stuff. We won awards, we debuted at the Game Awards. You know, he was one of the guys who co-founded Fulbright. It was this discussion that it had everything lined up to be a huge success, and then it wasn't. And him, the developer, Johnnemann Nordhagen. Johnnemann not offended, I'm sure that I have to look at his name because he even admitted it's a weird name and I'm a stupid idiot. I admit that. He was basically saying, like, I don't know if games like that can exist anymore. So this came up on Kinda Funny Games Daily. I read the news story about it. We discussed it. We hypothesized, obviously, because I hadn't talked to Johnnemann. And then the PR guy, one of the many PR people who are awesome and listen to this show, reached out like, I'm the PR for the game and I love what you guys do and I'd love to bring him in. And I said, let's do it. So we are about to go listen to me talk to Johnnemann about where the water tastes like wine, what it means to be an indie dev now, and what the realities of that part of the business are. Let's check in. As I live and breathe, Johnnemann, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Great. This is insane that you're here.
It is kind of, actually. Yeah.
As I said in the lead-in, we haven't recorded that part, but as I said in the lead-in on Gamescast, right, this spawns from Games Daily. Your story came up on Games Daily about where the water tastes like wine, and that you think these games can't be made, which we'll get to anymore. We'll get to it.
Okay.
We'll get to it. And it was one of those things that I'm just like, I don't know, and I should reach out to him, blah, blah, blah. And then there's Pat off camera, your PR dude, who was just like, oh, hey, I watched the show, and do you want him to come by? He's local. I was like, oh, yeah, I would very, very much like that. So Games Daily people, as I said earlier, you might remember this story that came through from GamesIndustry.biz a while back, Brendan Sinclair, and it was all about you, right? And the quote of, basically, I'm not sure that games like this one can continue to be made in the current climate or market, talking about the reaction, the critical success, but maybe commercial struggles of where the water tastes like wine. Yep. So I want to walk it in because sadly, not everyone watching and listening right now watches and listens to Kinda Funny Games Daily. What is Where the Water Tastes Like Wine?
Right. So Where the Water Tastes Like Wine is a narrative game. It's about traveling and telling stories. You sort of wander the Great Depression United States. You meet these different characters and you trade stories with them to learn about their lives. And one of the cool things about the game is that we got a different person to write every character out there. So it's like this collection of short stories in video game form, basically. So that's all cool. It's also got amazing art and, you know, this fantastic cast of voice actors.
DaveFenoy.com.
It's got a whole, yep, exactly. It's got a whole lot of things going on.
Oh, and that's the thing, is there's a whole lot of things. And so the article is based on this blog post you put up, right? Or postmortem you put up on Medium, was that right?
Yep, yeah, that's right.
Where you were talking about, I liked how you went back and updated it because I assume this got way more attention than you expected it to.
Yeah, way more. I don't know. I was writing it. All my other team members did postmortems, and I was like, yeah, I'll do one too, talking about it, and then yeah, it just blew up.
I'm sure mine will be the one that gets all the headlines and explodes and becomes a giant
exactly
thing.
What you want, yeah.
So, Where the Water Tastes Like Wine is one that my audience had been telling me about forever. And I think Pat and like just people in general, just like, oh, Greg, you love narrative games like this. You loved Gone Home, and you're one of the co-founders of Fulbright.
Yeah,
right?
that's right. Yeah.
It was on my radar in that respect, let alone what gets talked about in the games industry.biz article, right? The fact that makes its debut at Game Awards in 2015.
Yep, that's right.
You know, gets all sorts of awards and first looks, and IGN's talking about all these amazing things are happening for it. How long had you worked on the game?
About 4 years, a little less than that, but yeah. So it was a long time.
Sure. And then when did it come out?
It came out end of February of this year.
Okay. Yeah. And so that's... What are we? When you write this post-morph on your end, are you writing it with a month under your belt? A little bit more?
Yeah, it was a month. It was a month under.
Okay,
yeah.
okay. And what was the takeaway? What do you mean by basically? I'm not sure that games like this one can continue to be made in the current market.
So that's definitely like I was probably being a little bit too simplistic there. But
on the internet.
Oh, I know.
Talking
right?
about the entire video game industry.
Yeah,
oh no, really?
Yeah.
You see?
But basically, I was looking at games, especially single-player, narrative-heavy games, like this one, especially ones that try and maybe push some boundaries and are experimental in some ways.
Sure.
You know, because we were trying to do a lot of different things, different news things. You know, we were not only trying to, you know, do a narrative game without any like combat or, you know, not a lot of traditional mechanics. We also were trying this, you know, short story approach. It's a different setting. We had kind of all this innovative stuff, let's say, right?
And innovative's cool, but it's hard to wrap your head around and get people stoked for, right?
It is a hard thing to sell. Like I definitely, you know, as far as like what shoebox to put this in, like when people ask me like, oh, what genre is this game? You know, the best I can say is, oh, it's a narrative game. Like if you like stories, if you like reading, if you like things like that, then you're probably gonna love this game. It's all about stories and stuff. But I can't tell you like it's an RPG, it's a, you know, platformer, any of that sort of stuff. Like Steam does not have a drop down for categorizing this game, right? That makes it a little tricky.
Sure.
But yeah, in general, like especially lately, I feel like we've been seeing a lot of games come out like this, and they're not necessarily doing as well as we might expect commercially, you know, and that's going to be tough for people making this kind of game 100%. In the future, right? Like, and I think that, you know, amazing games will continue to be made at all sorts of levels, like especially if you look at the kind of personal games, the stuff that goes up on itch.io, like the thing that's like a person making their vision, telling their personal story. That's going to continue to happen, and that's amazing. Like I love that that's happening, right?
Sure.
And we're still going to get the AAA games out there, and we're going to get the even the III sort of things, you know, in the Valley of the Gods, the new one from the Firewatch folks, Campo Santo. You know, that is being made. It's going to be amazing, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And I hope it'll do well. But
that's interesting. I haven't heard anybody say III yet. So that's like AAA indie. Is that what you're calling AAA indie? I like that a lot. I'm going to start stealing that.
Step up. Okay, yeah, go for it. But I guess what I'm worried about is trying to make this kind of game on a commercial level, right? Because like Where the Water Tastes Like Wine, I could have made this on a lot simpler of a way, like for less money and, you know, everything like that. We wouldn't, however, have like the voice cast that we've got, you know. We didn't mention this previously, but like Sting is in the video game, right? And like even Dave Fennoy, you know, can't happen at no budget.
Oh,
right?
sure, yeah.
You know, things like that can't really go on. So you can make a version of this game, but whether you could make this game to the level of polish that it had as a commercial prospect worries me a little bit. And, you know, I might be totally wrong, right? Like I'm looking at the success of my game, some other narrative games in the past that I know about that haven't done as well as expected, stuff like that, you know. But at the end of the day, it's anecdotal, right?
Well, I mean, so I don't think you're wrong, and that was the thing when we talked. I don't know if you ever caught it with the discussion we had on our show about it, where it wasn't that I thought you were wrong. If anything, I just wonder if you're ahead of the curve. You know what I mean? If it's one of those, like, I feel everything you're saying, awesome voice cast, you're doing something different where there's more than a dozen writers working on it. There's all these awesome things on this game that make it sound rad, but are we at a point yet where indies, whether they be AAA or they be just irregular indies, are able to get that amount of reach to make that work? And that's where it is I think you look down, as we've seen the indie movement grow and go from, all right, cool, I'm making an indie game means you're making an 8-bit platformer,
right,
to now you can make whatever it is. It's going to look like whatever it is. That's only going to continue to go, where 5 years from now, 10 years from now, no one's even going to think about indie that way. It's going to be like how quaint it is when I think back to 2007 or 2008. We'd be like, oh, it's good for a downloadable game.
Yeah,
you know what I
totally,
mean? Of
yeah.
like, oh, it's on a different rubric because it's not a full-fledged game. I feel like once these walls break down and people understand where they can go to find games and that there are these awesome things and that even the avenues break down, because you're PC only, right?
Yeah,
PC Mac.
Linux.
Yeah. But not to like the consoles. Like I'm a console
not
plebe,
consoles
right?
yet,
So like
yep.
that's the reason I haven't played the game is
Sure,
the fact
yeah,
that
yeah.
oh yeah, cool. I don't want to drag my PC around and
Right,
do all this
yeah,
different
yeah,
stuff like
absolutely.
that. I feel like as that stuff fades away, it's like maybe there is a market for it, but right now you're too early to it.
That could be the case. I mean, on the other hand, though, like Gone Home, you know, which is similarly narratively experimental.
Sure.
You know, at the time that it was made, there was almost nothing else like it. You know, it was really cutting edge. It was in a lot of ways lower fidelity than, you know, this game. Absolutely, right?
sure.
Like when we made that, it was on a shoestring budget. We had, you know, like 2 voice actors and, you know, some licensed music, and that was it. We spent almost nothing on that game, and it did really well. And I think, you know, part of that is the reach that you're talking about, right?
Sure.
Back in the day when that came out, it was there were fewer games coming out is part of it, right? And I don't want to blame it all on that, but there's also I think the way and the places that we talk about games have changed since then. So back then, you know, it had a similar path. Like we had a lot of early attention, a lot of people were excited about it, a lot of press coverage, award nominations, all that good stuff. And when it came out, that translated into financial success, right?
Sure.
However, these days, one of the things I talked about in the postmortem is that, like, I feel like this game got enough attention. It got coverage from all the major sites. You know, it got all the places that you would love to get coverage in. You know, including places like the Washington Post. You know, we got mainstream media coverage, which is rare for an indie game, incredibly rare.
Yeah.
And that didn't translate into what I would expect commercial success-wise. And like, I want to be real careful here because I'm not claiming that this game is entitled to a certain number of sales or anything like that, right? Like that's silly. Like if it's not a game that people connect with or whatever, like they shouldn't buy it. You know, and that's fine. But given the amount of again, attention and the spotlight that's on the game and the amount of conversation around it going in, no one expected the outcome that we saw, I guess.
So from your experience as somebody who, you know, Fulbright, Gone Home, you're there, you see all this stuff happen. You see it start to happen in a similar vein with Where the Water Tastes Like Wine in terms of coverage, people talking about it, blah. Are you sitting there getting ready to launch the game and like, man, it's going to be Gone Home again, or it has the chance to be Gone Home again?
No, not at all. I mean, I think that actually a few years ago, like maybe 2016 or so, you know, when the Indiepocalypse articles started coming out and all that stuff started happening, like I began to realize that, you know, okay, well, this is not at all like there isn't a lot of financial security. No matter how good of a game you make, you can't rely on it doing well commercially. And honestly, that's the attitude I had going into the launch here. I wasn't really, I mean, I was definitely surprised by the actual numbers, but I was definitely prepared for, you know, the commercial realities of the industry in 2018, let's say, you know, sort of thing. So, but I think that it's a story not just of now, but of the past couple years about what has been changing in the indie market and how difficult it is as an indie to make it. And I think that part of it isn't just the idea that, you know, your game may or may not do well. And as you were talking about, like new avenues open up and people learn about this stuff and things like that, it's being able to survive and also being able to bet the amount of money that it takes to get to that point even, right? Like if you had come to me, coming off of Gone Home, funding a game like this seemed like a really good bet, right? It was like a single player narrative game, experimental, looking at how Gone Home did and looking at this, I was like, yes, let's do it. But if you'd come to me in 2016 and said, hey, will you give me $100,000 to make an indie narrative single player game that I'm going to sell on Steam, I would be like, I'm not investing in that project, no way, right? Like that's never, And so I think that it's not just the ability to succeed that needs to be there. It's also like an amount of acceptable risk that not only like people will self-fund or take the number of years it takes to finish their project, but also that publishers will be out there willing to give these projects money and the stuff they need to succeed, right?
How does that work for Where the Water Tastes Like Wine? Was it you come off of Gone Home and you're like, I'm going to do this all on my own and sell, or did you get publishers? Do you have investors? How did it all work for you guys?
So yeah, coming off of Gone Home, when I actually started the studio, before I even announced what the game was going to be, this is what 2014 was like, is I had 3 or 4 major publishers calling me up saying like, hey, what are you doing and can we be involved with that? And I said, no, I'd rather hold on to this game and, I'm going to self-fund it and everything like that. And do that. However, later on, as I began to see everything, and then as my own budget for supporting the game began to run down, I realized that the game would benefit from a lot of things like voice acting and just basically finishing funds, let's say.
Of course.
And that's when I connected with Good Shepherd, and we sort of partnered up to make it what it actually turned into, which is a lot better than what it would have been, let me say. But yeah.
Well, that's what you're saying too, right? Of like, you could have done this game a different way. You could have not done this. You could have ended it that way.
Yep.
And I mean, because that's what I was reading. I felt like more into the quote by the end of the conversation we were having, right? Of like, can you? I don't think they can be made in this climate like this. Was the fact that do you think it was that at some point, not that you overextend, but the game scope overextends beyond what would be profitable or something to that effect, right? Where if Good Shepherd hadn't come along, or even if just you were like, I don't want to do the voice acting, I don't want to do the polish, I want to put out this indie game, would the expectation for that kind of game been met by the success it saw, rather than when you go in, you get Sting and Dave Fennoy, the 2 biggest names in voice acting, and you have them on this project, suddenly the budget skews or expectations skew.
Yeah, I mean, I think that even for the game that this would have been without the voice acting and everything like that, the results would have been disappointing. But it certainly would have been closer to expectations, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you think then are you seeing, you talk to indies in such a different way than I do. I see them when I play their games and I talk to them that way. But like, is this something everyone's bracing themselves for? Do they understand the market and where they are now? Because when I go to PAX and I bop around, right, like it's awesome and PAX amazing. There's a million great indie games. I walk around the mega booth and I don't stop until I see the game that speaks to me, because I know that Gold Farm from IGN and somebody from GameSpot and somebody from just a YouTube channel, they'll walk by and the other games will connect with them, but I'm the one who's going to connect to Pig Eat Bowl or whatever, and I got to sit, you know what I mean? I want to sit down and play it.
Yeah.
I feel like that's awesome, but I also feel it's a shift from how it used to be, where when I was, PAX East 2008, 9, whatever the first one was when I went with IGN, you go there and it was, let's play everything, and you play everything and you come back and you report on everything, because that was doable. And it's similar to how in 2007 I felt like you could play every game period or big game that came out, every game of consequence that came out, I could play at IGN and have something to say in a podcast about it. But nowadays, of course not. There's 30 games a day coming out on all these different platforms, and lots of them are awesome. Are indies and the people you're talking about, your contemporaries, peers, are they understanding of that? Do they set their expectations on that?
I hope so. I mean, that's part of the reason that I wrote the postmortem like I did. Like, it wasn't meant to be, I don't know, a screed or, a rant or
everything's horrible,
cry for help or anything like that. It was more meant to be like, hey, just so you know, even if everything goes well for you, it might not work out, right? Because I think that it's easy as an indie to look at the way things are in the market and say and find reasons why it won't happen to you, right?
Yeah.
Like you can look at games that come out and you can be like, oh well, that's fine, but we've won awards. Oh, that's fine, but we're gonna get covered by the press. We've gotten all this attention already. Things like that. Oh, that's fine, but we're making a different kind of game. That sort of stuff. And you can look at the games that come out and don't do well and sort of like rationalize to yourself why yours will be different. And I'm sure that the same thing is possible with what I wrote and everything like that. But I did just want to say, like, hey, look at how everything can go really well for you.
Yeah.
And sometimes it doesn't meet expectations. And like, again, that's mainly like the audience for the postmortem was my fellow indie developers.
Of course.
Like, it's not meant for other people to look at, but for those people, I wanted them to just look at that and take a second to think like, okay, what if everything goes our way? What if we get the coin flip heads up for 6 months straight, but then we just don't do well after all,
Yeah.
And I think that there's ways to prepare for that. I mean, like I said, I approached Good Shepherd looking for help finishing the game because I wasn't willing to mortgage the house I don't actually have, but spend down the last of my savings, clear out my 401k, all that stuff to make
I know this is going to be the hit. This is going to be the thing. I need to make it happen.
Exactly. And like I'm, not begging for spare change on the streets of San Francisco right now because I had a semi-realistic idea of what the commercial outcome might be from this. And so I guess, and I think that this is happening in indie circles. I am definitely seeing a lot of people say this sort of thing. I don't know whether it's being heard or not, but like the takeaway that I kind of want there is like, don't do that. Don't bet at all.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you read about like the Cuphead folks. They talk about like,
they mortgaged
our home.
Yeah. Like,
hey, we like the roulette wheel landed right, and look, we're doing great now. And I just like don't do that. Don't go to Vegas. Don't bet at all. I guess would be one thing I'd want to say.
The one thing I've noticed, and I want you to correct me obviously if I'm wrong, that you're not saying when you're talking about, hey, we had everything lined up the way you'd expect it to be, awards and mainstream coverage and all this. Did you have evangelists? Did you have Let's Players or personalities? And this is not me looking for a pat on the back about Gone Home, but like Gone Home, right? I was far from the first person there, but I was super vocal and I played it and I was fucking giving away the game and I didn't shut up about it for the rest of my career, right?
Yeah.
Did you see that? Did you miss that? Is that something you look back of like, ooh, I wish I had something like that?
It's really hard to know whether that's happening or not when you're in the thick of it, right? Because like, excuse me, as we came up on the release of Gone Home, there were definitely a lot of people, mostly in the mainstream press, who were like, "Wow, this is new. This is exciting. We're super into what these folks are doing.
Yeah.
Like this is gonna be cool, everybody, right?" Nowadays, though, like we still had that on Where the Waters Is Going. There were a lot of people who are like, "This is gonna be something special. This is something we've never seen before. This is, it's so important." Like we had a lot of people write articles about how it's like their game of the show at this place, how it's gonna, this important game that's gonna change whatever. I had college professors emailing me saying, "Can I teach your game in my literature
awesome.
class?" Like stuff like that. Like it's really, really great, right?
Yeah.
And so it's very hard to figure out though whether that is making a difference on the wider scope of things, right?
Sure.
And you only really get to hear about how things are going with streamers and with YouTubers and like the kind of more, I don't know, of this era evangelists and things.
Personalities, whatever.
When you're like when you're very close to release,
Sure.
because you only give out those keys like a week or so before release. So it's really hard to gauge like how popular is this really. If you have one or even if you have like 5-10 people like all shouting your praises, is anyone hearing that? I guess is the question, right?
Yeah, it's a huge struggle, right? That's a huge part. Question I have for you based on, like we said, this whole postmortem kind of blew up in a way you didn't expect. Have you seen an uptick in sales based on that?
Not there has been a little bit definitely,
Yeah.
but not like a huge amount, not an appreciable.
Not like you're not like it's all turned around.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like oh, it's launch day again.
Postmort,
or anything like that, yeah.
Postmort on the postmort.
Right,
Write
yeah.
a postmort if things don't go well. And that's what happened.
Yeah. But one thing that I have, I mean, I've gotten a lot of advice from people, both unsolicited.
Yeah, I was going to
advice
say,
from
right? Yeah,
randos
the
and,
internet. Now that they're involved, they're going to tell you how to market the game,
exactly.
and I'm part of the problem, I guess.
And people, and from people who know a bit better, you know, fellow developers and things like that. And one thing that gives me a little bit of heart is that a lot of people have said. You know, it used to be all about launch day on video games, right? It used to be all about launch day, launch month, and if that didn't perform well, then, you know, too bad. That was your one chance and you're done.
Yeah.
Right? But these days, it seems like things are a little bit smoother, maybe. Like, you don't get as much of a launch as you used to, but you can still get attention down the road. Like, that's not your one shot.
Well, I feel like that was even the story with Gone Home, where it was that I had totally missed coverage leading up to it, and it wasn't until the review started popping that I was like, oh, this game seems like it's reviewing well. I don't really know what it was. And I think it was Justin McElroy who was just like, hey, if you're reading this, play Gone Home and don't read anything about it. I was like, oh, fuck, I got to play it. And I did, and then, you know, on and on and on, and then there's Steam sales, and then it gets ported over to different things, and there's different platforms involved.
Yeah, but still, if you look at Gone Home, I mean, I don't know, I haven't looked at the numbers in a long time, but I know that, like, our launch was definitely still the biggest thing, and that, like, you know, that was the spike. And if a lot of people at that time were posting, like, you can't post numbers from Steam, but you can post, like, your graph or whatever, and what it looks like is this gigantic spike at the beginning, and then, like, you know,
tapers
little,
off into the line. Yeah.
And I think that that's still largely true, but luckily, again, we're seeing a little bit of maybe that evening out, and that games have a longer life now. I don't know exactly why that is, but it's a good thing, honestly, for games like this and for other games. The only problem is that, like, if you release a game like this, you still have to be prepared to survive for a while as a studio or as a game developer without necessarily that launch day payoff, right?
Yeah.
So, like, if you work for 4 years on something, that's a long time to go without getting paid for it already, right?
Yeah.
And then if you have to, like, wait another 6 months, year, or whatever for like it to turn around, then it's like, this is getting scary. Like, going 6 years without a paycheck is not. I
can't go 2 weeks.
Right?
I get terrified. Yeah.
So that's part of it too. Is that I don't think that there's no way in which these games can ever be successful. But, like, when you limit this kind of game to the people who can afford to go for 4 or 5 years without getting paid, that's a very small group of game makers that you've got there, right?
Yeah.
Like, how do you get that?
Speaks to your quote, right? I think that definitely speaks to your quote in terms of, like, somebody who wants to make this caliber of game, somebody who wants to put this kind of thing in and make a more AAA game. I'm taking it, dude. Like, you need that kind of buffer. You need that because that is the financial reality of everything that's happening.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
So then, and I'm not trying to pin you down, I swear.
No worries.
Is there talk with this of then other platforms, right? Like, everything that goes to this Nintendo Switch apparently turns into the golden egg and just explodes, right?
There you go. Yeah. I mean, I think that's a little bit. The bias in the discussion is, you know, towards successes. Like, you're a lot more willing to speak out if you're a developer who's like, I just made my fortune on the Nintendo Switch. Everyone should come here and dig gold with me, you know, sort of thing. Than if that doesn't happen, right?
Yeah.
And so I have heard stories of games where that doesn't turn around. But to get back to your actual question, I'm not dodging it, I swear.
No.
We're hoping to do additional platforms and things like that, right?
Yeah.
The problem is, again, that requires more time and
more money.
And it's like, you know, it's tough, especially when you've rolled the dice and it hasn't worked out once already. It's even tougher to double down on that and say, you know, it's doing it. But
I can only imagine being in your shoes and going to publisher X, or in your case, Good Shepherd, and be like, hey guys, all right, I know this didn't do what we thought it would, but trust me, on Switch, on PlayStation, on Xbox.
Just step up and put up the money one more time. Exactly. So, but we are, you know, like, we do have plans for the future of the game. Like, platforms are part of it. We're doing, I updated the postmortem with this. I don't know if you saw it, but we're doing a new content release in May where we're going to bring out more of the stories for the game. We're adding some additional writers. Like, we're doing some really cool stuff going forward. So like, it's absolutely not the end of the road, right?
Yeah.
And I never meant the post to say, like, one of the things that's really made me sad about writing that postmortem is that certain outlets picked it up and their headlines were, "This game is a failure," right? And that is the farthest thing from what I feel, right? And so there is no sense in which we believe that to be true, or that we are like, walking away from the explosion, without looking back, sort of thing. It's
Why
much more
did we
of a,
do
like,
this?
This is the reality now, and
Yeah.
and how do we support the game in the current reality in a way that makes sense, right? And again, the postmortem is out there to let people know, like, hey, this is scary. Like, not just for you, if you're an indie developer, you should think about these things, but also let's think about what the industry might look like if games like this weren't able to be made anymore. Like,
Sure.
if you could only make a certain narrow genre of game, or if you could make experimental games, but they had to be low-budget experimental games. Like, what is that? I don't like that reality. I don't know if anyone else does either.
No,
And I don't
imagine.
know what to do about it.
Well,
either,
hats off to you for it, because this is what I've been talking about. Whether I'm talking about a AAA or a III or just regular indie, and is the fact of, I love where games are at and where the industry is at, and the fact that we can have these frank discussions out in the open. That this doesn't need to be you giving a GDC speech off the beaten path and only certain people see it. Everyone can get out there and have this conversation and talk about the realities of what it's like to make a game. Because I feel like that's what the disconnect is between you, the developer, and us, the gamer. Where it is the fact that if I am just buying the game off the shelf, or I'm only buying out of the bargain bin, I don't understand what the financial reality is for developer X trying to make this and get into publisher. And then when other people are looking at your game now and be like, "Oh, it sounds awesome," and I'm chief of among them, and by the way, fuck you, I'm gonna buy it on PC and play it on PC. But it's that thing now, because you sold it. It sounds like a great game, but it is the thing of, like, when I see it now, and people are like, "You love this game. Is it on any of the consoles I own?" No, I'll wait.
Right.
Well, I can't sit there and wait on the sidelines if it's never if your livelihood it depends on it, let alone the viability for a publisher to say, yes, we will put it out to everyone else.
Right, absolutely. And I think, I don't know that an appeal to gamers to say, like, hey, support the kind of thing you want to see in the world as much as you can is going to change anything, because this is like a systemic thing. But that is definitely important, is like, if you like something, like, just think about how more of that gets made. And I'm not trying to, like, I do this too. Like, I'm not trying to shame anything or anyone or anything like that, but, like, buying games in bundles is not going to support developers forever. Like, buying, waiting for the Steam sale and stuff like that.
I'll wait for it to be on PlayStation Plus or Xbox Gold.
Right,
Games
yeah,
Gold.
exactly. Like, that stuff is totally valid. And again, like, I do it as a consumer, but, like, as a developer, it's tough to make make a living in a world where that is the way that these things happen, and yeah, again, I want to tell anyone, like, you have to spend the full price of the game every time you see something you like, or anything like that. Just, it's a tough world out there. Like, it's hard to make games. It's hard, even if everything goes well.
Yeah. So then, what is the next step for you? Of course, I want to say vlog because I'm so focused on video. The Medium article, and then Games Industry Biz mentions you were thinking or considering returning to AAA. Is that still the case?
Oh, really? They said that? Wow, that's
what it says
weird.
here.
Yeah,
the experience had Nordhagen
that.
considering returning to AAA. He previously worked at 2K Marin and BioShock 2, or abandoning games entirely. It says.
Wow. Yeah. No, I think I explicitly said in the end of the postmortem that I was not going to do that. I mentioned those, I think, as, hey, that looks like a valid path. Like, if you're making indie games and it's not working out for you, like, these are things that I can do, right? And
Gotcha.
I'm incredibly lucky in this, right? I'm a programmer, like, from way back, so, like, I can go get a AAA job. I can go work at Facebook or Google or something like that, making non-fun software, or whatever. But no, I'm not planning on doing any of that stuff. Like, I still want to make games. I'm just kind of trying to feel out, and the postmortem was part of that process, is like trying to feel out what that means. Like, how does one do that sustainably? How does one make the kind of games that I want to see in the world while
making rent?
Yeah, exactly. Feeding myself, like, how does that happen?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay. What haven't I asked you?
Oh gosh,
This is all about you and
so I can plug right now.
Plug away, please.
So if you're interested in the game, you can obviously find it on Steam, Where the Water Tastes Like Wine. Just search for that, or maybe Wine. I don't know how many wine-related games there are. But you can also go to.
They're gonna be like, oh, that Witcher expansion, great.
Probably, yeah. You can go to wherethewatertasteslikewine.com to find out more about it too, if you're curious. There's a lot out there.
Okay, great. Dude, thank you so much for coming by, number one.
My pleasure.
But even more importantly, thank you for writing the thing, and thank you for pulling the curtain back and actually explaining, because I think it is a thing. Yeah, you're right. We hear about Shovel Knight, and we hear about Cuphead, and we hear about all these guys who nail it, but what is it like to put out a game that you believe in and you love and you tried hard on and you got all these amazing pieces together, but it just doesn't work? And I know I am being chief among them, hate writing the post like, hey, we did this thing, guess what? It got 5,000 views, nobody cares. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
but like,
exactly.
here's what we learned, and it's an awesome learning experience, and I'm so happy to see that.
I'm glad conversations like this are coming out of it, at least, so that's great. Thank you again so much for having me on here.
No problem, man. Take care.
Take care.
Back to your regularly scheduled Kind of Funny programming. What a dynamite interview. I still got it, ladies and gentlemen. A lot of people over on the Reddits and the NeoGAFs and what's the other one? What's the purple one? Reset Era, the MySpace. They're like, Greg Miller, he sucks. And I mean, I think that one just proved I don't suck and that they suck. Am I wrong, Kev?
No, you're kind of wrong.
Okay, Kev, that's one way to do it. But let's continue our journey through Greg Miller interviewing devs, which he misses doing desperately and is always excited to do it. I don't know if you heard about this little game. It was an indie sensation in 2017. It's continued on now because it's a game as a service. And I liked it, but I didn't talk much about it. It's called Friday the 13th. I was lucky enough that during GDC, Ronnie Hobbs from Gun Media came by to talk to me about Friday the 13th. What's happening with it, some of the problems they've had, some of the successes they've had, all that jazz. He sat down for a lengthy interview with me, a true Friday the 13th fan, in which I sourced a bunch of questions from the really hardcore folks over on the Friday the 13th game subreddit. And I think this interview is pretty great too. Let's see if it really was. As I live and breathe, Ronnie Hobbs.
How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Yeah, good.
When I used to do that, there was an audience that clapped, because I used to do it on Up at Noon all the time, right?
Where'd they go?
That wasn't even here. That was a different place.
Yeah, they didn't come
IGN
with
had
you?
a bunch of
They
seats.
didn't-
No,
that wasn't part of the deal?
So I don't do that much anymore, and I want you to know that I held for applause. I'm totally forgetting it's just
and
Cool
no one's
Greg in the
applauding.
room. So let's try it. Cool Greg, I need you to clap after I say it.
Someone has
all
to
right?
clap.
All right, hold on. As I live and breathe, Ronnie Hobbs. Yeah, see that? No, you don't clap. You shake the hand.
I'm
God
trying to just
dang
make
Ron.
it. I'm trying to get it hype.
You're trying to get it hype. Ronnie, how are you?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Good. You made a game called Friday the 13th.
I did with several other people. Oh my god.
And
And
that's what he's here for? Yeah, he's Friday the 13th, man.
oh really?
Yeah,
He's-
we're all
he's
big
like
fans.
just some random dude here. Yeah.
We're big fans of Friday the 13th.
We know you're a big fan.
Yeah, have I tweeted enough about that? Have I made that clear to
You
everybody?
have tweeted more than your fair share.
Thank you.
More than the required amount. And
You
we
deserve it.
Thank you.
You're
by the
no,
way.
no. Thank you. Thank you for making the game. Thanks for everybody at Ilphonic, at Gun for making the
Yes.
game, doing all these different things. Yeah, Friday the 13th caught me off guard last year.
In what way?
I think when, for me, the journey really. So I remember when the Kickstarter was happening and stuff like that. But when Sessler came by to talk about it,
That's right. Yep.
he pitched it, and it was very much like, oh, okay, that sounds like something. All right, whatever. I like Friday the 13th, but
Yeah.
I'm not a multiplayer guy. I'm not a games as a service guy. Like, this doesn't sound like
Yeah.
something I'll play ever.
Yeah.
And I remember him like, no, but it's really cool. And yeah, I'm like, all right, we'll see if it actually comes together. I've
Yeah,
never
sure
even,
thing, Adam.
Never even heard of these days. Yeah, exactly. They paid you,
Yeah,
Sessler.
yeah,
Like, I'm going to
exactly.
listen to you.
Yeah.
And then when we got our hands on it, I was enamored and floored
Yeah.
and locked in and still play. Like, I dig your game quite a bit.
That was a common theme.
Yeah.
Of course we knew the Friday 13 fans would play it.
Sure, the licensee
But
would be there.
the amount of people that played the game that really don't like horror games in
Yeah.
general,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think that's the beauty of the game. Like, you don't have to like horror. You don't have
Yeah.
to like Friday 13th. It's fun to be with your friends and try to figure out if you can survive or not.
Right.
Like,
Well, what was so funny that I didn't expect, and I can't remember if Sessler tried to sell it at the time, but when we started playing,
Yeah.
and especially when Jen, my wife, would watch me play it or whatever, how quickly I'm playing this game and I've been enjoying this game, sure, but playing it with somebody else in the room, how quickly it becomes they're watching a horror movie. And they're like, why are you running up the stairs? No, oh, you idiot.
yeah, you end up doing the same dumb shit that
Yeah,
you yell at everyone, right?
And there was that like meta moment of like when she did that the first time, we're like, Oh,
You're right.
Like, wow, this game works on such a different level.
Why did I come in this cabin? He's chasing me. Like, or why did I run outside the cabin and run into the woods? That's stupid.
Yeah,
like,
exactly,
there's nowhere to
exactly.
go. Like, but it happens, and that's like the beauty of our game, I think.
So here's what I want to know, Ronnie, because we're gonna span the gamut, as they say. All right,
let's
you
do
know
it.
what I mean? Because I've played a lot of the game.
Yeah.
I don't consider myself a super expert. For a lot of our
I
audience,
think you
am.
might be an expert at this point.
As somebody who looks at the subreddit I still have
Okay.
it tagged as one of my favorites, so I see all the posts.
Yeah,
Like,
okay.
trust me, those kids are experts, and I want to go to their questions eventually.
Yeah, sure.
But so I want to do basic information for a lot of people at Gamescast who are watching or listening who don't know about it,
Yeah.
and then into fan stuff and all over the place. So if you're an expert, stick with me. We'll get there eventually. For people on the base, Gun and Ilphonic, you work for Gun.
Yes.
What is the breakdown of work there? Like that was something that even confused me, I think, when the game first came out.
It always is, because people are like, wait, did Ilphonic make this game? Did Gun make it? Is it a combination? Is there a third party?
Yeah.
So Gun, what we do, we're just like a creative house, mini publisher, if you will, but publisher is really probably not the right word.
Okay.
We just find cool shit and try to make it.
Okay.
So going back 10 years, we've been thinking about some type of tribute to Friday the 13th before
Yeah.
we got the license.
Sure.
Obviously.
Yeah, I want to talk about that.
Yeah, it's okay. So what we do is we design the game from start to finish and try to account for every single possible scenario.
Okay.
We look 1,000 miles down the line and then get the money and get the funding together.
Okay.
And then we'll find a development studio that we think's awesome or that we know can make this game.
Okay.
And we'll team up with them.
Okay.
And that's the partnership. So we'll do the marketing, production, like producer, director side.
Yeah.
And keep the title on track. And probably a lot more other things too. And then we'll hire someone to build the game.
Okay.
So that's who Gun is, and Ilphonic is our developer.
Gotcha.
So because they worked on Evolve,
Yeah.
they were recommended from Turtle Rock.
Yeah.
We called Turtle Rock, and they said, no, you should go to guys at Ilphonic.
Oh,
So
wow.
That's how we met Ilphonic. And
That's awesome. How long? So in this 10-year timeline, how long ago did you meet them?
Well, so when I say the 10-year timeline, that means in our brains too. So that goes.
Yeah, you had
way-
an idea of like we should make a horror video game.
Yeah, so it's like half that time is just thinking about it and trying to find a way to make it happen without telling anyone, without talking to a dev team. So we met Ilphonic. We announced summer camp in Halloween of 2014, so it was before that.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And so how long's Gun been around?
So Gun, that would take us an hour to talk about our history, but Wes and I have been working together since probably 15 years.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
So Gun was, before that Gun, we were working in advertising. We were hooking up video game companies with product placement. So like
Sure.
Codemasters with Ford.
Okay.
Like things like that,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
Gillette and Madden.
Yeah.
The early years of
Integrations.
advertising inside of video games and how to do it.
Okay.
And then we had our own consulting firm. We were working on other people's games like EA and Sony and Microsoft. And we had like guys like Dan Chu working for us.
Hell yeah.
So it was just that we were a consulting firm. They were like, wait a minute, let's just make our own games.
Yeah.
So that's when we started getting funding for Breach and Clear, which was
Okay.
our first iOS. It was a mobile game.
Yeah, I know
Tribute
Breach
to
and
like
Clear.
Rainbow Six. And we took that money and said, okay, we got some money now. We have a little bit of money. What are we going to do? And that's kind of how that kicked off.
Okay. And so your story is so interesting. You start as an homage to Friday the 13th, correct?
Yes. So shortly after Breach and Clear, Wes comes to my office probably daily and says, okay, let's just think about ideas. So after Breach and Clear, there was probably a 6 or 7 month period there where we didn't know what we're going to do next.
Yeah.
So like, do we make a sequel to Breach and Clear? Do we start doing something unique? So if you have something, this is the time to pitch it. So we all kind of collectively went aside in our own little worlds and for 6, 7 months just obsessed over every idea you've ever had. And then we pitched it, and that was kind of one of the ideas we loved, was this asymmetrical horror game, because we loved all the horror movies from the 80s, and it was our shot. We're like, well, no one's ever going to make a Friday the 13th video game, it seems.
Yeah.
Like, they had no interest in making one, apparently, because it's been 30 years.
Yeah.
So let's just
Well,
be
they
the
nailed
ones-
it. The NES version, they just knocked out.
Yeah, right, yeah. It's just only
Can't
only
get
one
any
way to
better.
go from there, right? So that was kind of how that happened, but...
And so you go public with it, and that's when the license comes into play?
Yeah, so we spent a little time just internally on prototypes, making sure that it was the right idea. If you're going to bank your entire company on something, you better... Because everything looks good on paper.
Yeah.
Even if you thought about it for 10, 15 years, and you think you've went down every single rabbit hole, there's always problems. Like, the game that you design on paper is never the game that happens.
Yeah.
So we started prototyping to make sure that it was good, and we started having fun. So we're like, okay. So that's when we hired Tom Savini.
Yep.
And Kane Hodder.
Yep.
And Harry Manfredini, because like, hey, if we're going to make a Friday 13th tribute, let's get some of the guys.
Get the real folks in.
Somehow they said yes.
Yeah.
We still don't know how. But Wes called them, and sure enough, they responded like, yeah, let's do this. We're like, holy shit, it's insane. Like, why are you agreeing to do this? But they just thought it was a cool idea.
Yeah.
That's when Sean Cunningham was at a horror convention and ran into Harry Manfredini, the guy who did the that guy.
Yeah.
So he's the sound designer in our game. So they ran into each other and he's like, hey, what are you working on? And he's like, I'm working on this game called Summer Camp. It's kind of like Friday the 13th. You should check it out. And that's how Sean found out about our game.
Yeah.
Sean sends us some emails actually first through some other people. We thought we were getting trolled. We thought, I mean, honestly, we thought it was some guy trying to steal our idea.
Yeah.
We didn't really know it was him or his people. So we ignored the email for probably 3 weeks. Just big time, dude. They kept responding. And we were like, no, this can't. We would have meetings every day, like an hour long. What do we do? Should we engage this?
Yeah.
Are they going to sue us?
Yeah, exactly.
What if
Right.
it really is him, right?
Yeah.
Turns out it wasn't. So finally the phone rings when he's like, dude, I'm trying to get a hold of you guys. You're not responding.
Yeah.
It's him. So he's like, hey, well, this is the game exactly what I wanted Friday the 13th to be for the last 10, 15 years of my life. They've been trying to make a game, but they never had a good idea.
Yeah.
They were being pitched single player.
Sure.
Be Jason.
Sure.
Walk around and hunt counselors down. He's like, I wanted something more than that. So he's like, if you guys can turn your game into Friday the 13th, you can have the license.
Wow.
So for us, that was pretty awesome.
How long did it take to turn the game into that?
Well, luckily, because it was a tribute.
Yeah, it was already pretty close.
We were getting pretty close to the flames, so to speak. Anyway, we were going to push it to the limit. Obviously, we didn't have Jason in our game. So it was really about yanking our other killer out, putting in Jason. But then it was really, okay, now Jason, we have to be the ones to explain what Jason hears, what he sees.
Yeah.
Does his mother talk to him?
Yeah.
Like, how does he get everywhere at once?
Yeah.
Like, those are hard things to design because in the films, they hide that.
Right. No,
they do cutaways
totally.
and they're very clever. In a game, you can't hide any of that.
Right.
So really, it took a while for that.
Well, that is what, for me, floored me and impressed me about the game months after launch and months after me already liking it and playing it and loving it was the fact that because it came out initially when the spring, right? Right. And so then you get to October and Xbox did that sale where they're like, oh, buy Friday the 13th 1 through 8 for like $7.
Yep.
And I was like, oh yeah. And so Jen and I watched them every night. And so having played the game, I was like, all right, this feels really familiar. Like when I'm talking about playing in the spring, this seems like, and I remember that. And then you watch the movies, and I was like, holy fuck, was I underselling how much you guys had done here? Yeah, because like you've recreated the exact lodge and this, and clearly this character is this archetype of this person, and like you can see their clothes are influenced by that. The fact that Tommy Jarvis is Tommy Jarvis that I didn't pick up on, like really playing.
People are like, who's Tom?
Exactly, exactly.
Oh, that's really the guy.
Yeah, exactly. And so then like to go through it and be like, oh wow, like I never really filled in the blanks of like Jason is teleporting across the map and like he's just there all of a sudden in the movie. That's how they figured out how it would look in the game and how they did this and sound effects and why this Jason uses this weapon and this because that's all he used. And it's like, holy fuck.
Yeah, as you can tell, we were fans. Yeah. When we said we were lifelong fans, I mean, I had their posters on my wall as a kid. I had Tom Savini on my wall as a kid. Yeah. I waited in line as a kid to get Sean Cunningham's autograph one time. Like, we were really fans that loved that franchise to death. So we've seen each film 100 times. Yeah. But when we started creating the game, Wes and I and Randy and everyone else on the team was like, okay, how do we get these real-life locations in the game? Because they don't exist anymore. Yeah. Those places are torn down, and you have to watch the film. If you want the blueprints for those houses, they don't exist. You got to draw them, You're calling the State Department and trying to figure out, hey, do you have blueprints? No, they don't. Yeah. So you're just watching the film over and over and over and trying to figure out, wait a minute, because they're very clever with cuts and they make it seem like the place is bigger than it is. They don't just walk through and do a tour of the place. So that was actually a lot of work. So when we hear people say, oh man, you guys really nailed it, that's really awesome to hear. Well, I mean, that was not an easy thing to do. It just showed, I think, finally watching this, like, wow, like there was so much work that went into this of making it look like we had to. I mean, we didn't know another way to do it. Like, we couldn't just slap together a house and go, oh, that's the Packanack Lodge, and have fans go, that's not Packanack Lodge. Are you insane? Right, I thought you guys were fans. Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, we tried to get as close as we could. Now, we had to make some gameplay decisions inside the house occasionally, make rooms a little bigger. Of course, a little smaller. But other than that, I think we nailed it pretty well. So, 100%, yeah. So when do you start to realize this game's going to be far bigger than you thought it was going to be? It's funny because I don't know if you were around how much you kept up with the game while we were marketing it. So we had this marketing strategy where we would go to each PAX. Yeah. And we would do a panel. And then we would have a panel, but we'd also have a video ready to go live that we'd send out. So whatever video we were showing at the panel, we'd send out to the press. And we didn't know if that would work. Yeah. But we'd label the video, PAX South, even though we weren't showing that PAX. We were doing a panel at PAX South, we didn't have a booth. But the press is looking for PAX South information. Sure, of course. We started showing, the first time we showed Vanessa, we showed Higgins Haven, it was at Higgins' house, and she was getting her head slammed in the door. Yeah. The reaction we got to that trailer, it was just one kill at the very end of that video, and it was just like people were so offended. I mean, it was like, I mean, he grabs her head and does the door kill on her.
Yeah.
That was it. And people are like, oh my God, they lost their minds.
Yeah.
And the trailer got tons of views. And we're like, okay, people really want to see kills. So then we started like, okay, how about a kill montage? So we released a kill montage trailer. That trailer, the first kill montage trailer, it hit 18 million views on one website alone, like in Europe.
Yeah.
We stopped counting the views on that trailer combined on the internet at like 200 million.
Jeez.
We're like, oh my God, this is insane.
Yeah.
And then our E3 trailer got 10 million views. It was the first gameplay.
Yeah.
There are AAA studios who didn't even get a fraction of those views. And we're like, we're onto something here.
Yeah.
But also we're in trouble.
Yeah.
Because the marketing outgrew the resources.
Yeah.
In a way. Like, it's a really good problem to have.
Sure.
But that's kind of when we knew, when we started putting those videos out and people were like, this is the best thing ever. I can't believe it. And then people were just, on the other side, they were just highly offended.
Yeah.
Which is always a good thing, right?
Yeah, for a horror thing, right?
Yes,
Like that.
so-
And that was, again, what I think spoke so interestingly to it is the fact that it was a game based on these movies that are all about gore and making you
Yes.
cringe. And like, that's
Yeah.
the horror of those, right? It was always the special effects of Tom, of like,
Exactly.
we're going to gross you out.
Yeah.
And so to see that come up in the 2017 timeline of where video games are, of
Yeah.
like, it's not even so much the video games grossing you out as much as like what the source material is.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And especially, and this was a mistake we made. You probably know this, but all the counselors, like 4 of the 5 male counselors in our game are paid backers.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, no one really does.
No.
So 4 of those are real people. That's their real names. That's their likeness.
Oh my God,
They were
really?
Kickstarter backers. They paid 10 grand to be in our game.
Wow.
Only Chad is a fake
Fucking
guy.
Chad.
I know. You should
Chad's
see
a
how
dick.
when we researched the snobbiest names ever
Yeah.
to get Kensington, Chad Kensington. Apparently that's like an Ivy League name. It's funny.
Yeah.
But the girls, because they were made up, they were done faster
Okay.
than the guys because you have
Oh.
to go back to the backer and get 1,000 photos and then share feedback. That was taking a long time. So only models we had were females.
Sure.
So the first people that were getting murdered in our
Sure.
game were female characters.
Gotcha.
And man, it was this one brutal kill on a female after the next. And
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
Oh, we probably should have rethought that shit. We're very sorry. Like that wasn't on purpose.
Yeah,
but-
yeah.
So we got some backlash for that, but it's okay, So
Well, I feel like that instance is kind of par for the course with you. I feel
Yeah.
like there's been so many, as somebody looking in on you,
Yeah.
right, but who's been in the video game
Yeah.
industry a while, so many learning lessons, so many lessons to learn from what happened, right?
Oh,
Because
yeah.
where I'm driving at, obviously, is the fact that how big is Ilphonic? How big is Gun?
well, see that's the thing. Like Ilphonic at any given point probably had 18 to 30 people working on this game.
Yeah.
Which is not a lot for
No,
a game
no.
we're just trying to compete in the AAA space. At Gun, there was 4 of us.
Yeah.
Ben was doing all of our social, so Twitter, Facebook, Discord, Reddit. That's a job for 5 people.
Sure.
So he was doing that. Wes and I, and Randy is dealing with Kickstarter because that dominates 75% of your time, which if you've never done a Kickstarter, you don't really realize that.
Yep.
You have 20,000 people that want answers and,
Yep.
and deserve answers immediately. So Randy's being drug away to do Kickstarter stuff. So it's me and Wes trying to market the game, keep it on track, talk to Ilphonic daily, play
Yeah.
the game, bugs. I mean, we had 4 people doing the job of probably, if you were at a AAA publisher, it'd probably be 20, 25 people, maybe even
Sure.
more.
Sure.
So it wasn't, we were continually caught off guard because we were undermanned, if
Right.
you will. So it was, that's really not a lot of people. So
So is that when you're seeing these numbers on these trailers where you're like, oh, fuck.
yeah, and we're like, this is awesome, but
Yeah.
how do we even, I mean, imagine trying to answer, you probably deal with this a lot, but I mean, there's not a whole lot of you guys that work here.
Oh
right?
yeah, no. We on a smaller scale. I wish we had 200 million views on
But
that thing.
how many messages do you probably get all the time?
Yep,
And you
yep.
feel responsible to
Yep.
respond, right?
We were talking about this earlier about the subreddits, right?
Yeah,
Where
so even
yeah.
like I personally, and I know Randy and Wes have too. I mean, I've struck up conversations with thousands of people on Twitter, private messages that are fans of this game that have
Yeah.
reached out. I'm like, oh my God, this means so much to me. And I don't want to just go, thanks.
Yeah.
Like that's a shitty thing to do. So I write back and I get to know the person. All of a sudden I'm talking to 3,000 people simultaneously.
Yeah.
While I'm trying to make the game, and it gets out of hand
Yeah.
at some point. So that's taking your time away too.
Right.
Just the constant fan communication. But you're happy to be doing that because you're a fan too.
Yeah.
So,
And I feel like somebody who came on late, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I had with Tesla on earlier,
Yeah.
but like I'm playing it and like I don't know if I want to like this game.
Yeah.
Like I had missed the whole Kickstarter success you guys had
Okay.
had, the
Yep.
the Savini skin, all this,
Yep.
all the jazz
Oh,
you guys
yeah.
had there. Like you guys had a
Yeah.
whole bunch of goodwill behind you. Like people were behind this game, still are.
Yep.
But it was that you released it, and then it was word of mouth immediately.
Yeah.
And it was me and a bunch of other people, and the servers are just melting.
yeah. Stop me if you've heard that one before. A game doesn't work on day one.
Oh, I know. What a surprise.
But for us, it was just, we had a memory leak issue too that we didn't catch through testing. And so the Xbox version had a memory leak. The servers were melting. We had database login errors where it was duplicating your profile on the back end and like getting caught in this gigantic pipeline, just thousands of fake
People
login.
trying to play,
Yeah, so it was just duplicating errors. So we had quite a few problems at launch that it took us months to recover from. Because Aphonic, well, the thing is like, oh, just hire more people. Well, you can't, I don't know if you've ever been hired. It's an interview process. You have to move your whole family. It takes 3 or 4 months to get new people in.
Yep.
So there's not a button where you can just throw money at it.
But I mean, there is a button for servers, right?
All right, hit the server button, right? So all that just takes time. And even if you sell 3 million copies like day one, you don't get that money. You know, like Sony and Microsoft saying don't pay you.
Yeah, exactly.
It takes months.
Yeah.
So you can't even fix the problem with money, which was the problem for us. Like it was to step back and see these problems, and we could do nothing about them except for pray that the guys at Aphonic didn't like crumble under pressure from working so many hours, which they did. They were sleeping under their desks trying to solve these problems, and we couldn't even give them more help. Yeah. It's a painful thing to go through for those guys. So,
sure. And that was the one thing for me at launch that I was like, again, I was understood what was happening thanks to Adam and thanks to you know, just being attention and a student of the industry. But to watch people flipping out on you guys, and I was like, but these guys, they're not EA, and they're not even like, you know,
you were not even that.
Yeah, exactly, like double A video game. You know what I mean? Like you guys are trying to make it with a small team, and this was an independent thing that you didn't expect to go this way, and you got the license and this, blah blah blah. It's like I felt for you guys in that moment.
Well, thanks.
You know what I mean? Well, like you know, it's funny. I don't think we ever talked about it on the shows, but this part, stick with me. At Indie Mix the other night, I ran into Randy, right? And he's like, "Oh man," and the first thing he was thanking me for the pizzas.
Oh, I know.
During when it was all going to shit, and I was seeing you guys try to fix it and try to put it out, and you were doing the Twitter convos, and you were active on the subreddit, and it was clear that like we're on it. We're just there's not much we can do. I hit up, I guess, one of your guys through that who told me the address, so I sent you guys Ilphonic a bunch of pizzas because I knew they'd be working late. I know how that runs,
and they appreciated it.
Yeah, and that's the thing of I'm lucky, and like we're lucky, kind of funny best friends, folks, because we get to have this interface and talk to you, and we've seen it with other developers, and we know how rough it is, and I know how when it's all going wrong, because it's gone wrong for Kind of Funny before, and all you're getting is the wave after wave, like this is such a simple fix. Why aren't you fixing it?
Just do it.
Just pay for more servers. It's that simple. And I don't know thing one about how to get another server online, but I'm sure it's not easy.
It's not a button.
Yeah.
It's a very convoluted.
Yeah,
process.
so like I knew that, and I felt for you guys, and it was the thing of like okay, and it's gotten better. And I think you apologized to me, or maybe it might have been. Yeah,
I did.
Of like every time we do a stream here of like, all right, it's double XP, whatever. Yeah, you jump on and something is inevitably wrong. Sometimes it's PlayStation, sometimes it's you guys, but it's still like the growing pains I feel of trying to make this game be what you guys envision it to be, right? Envision it.
To be. So there's two things that the first one is you have a sense of loyalty to your product. There are things that get cut and things you want in the game. So after you launch your game, the creative person inside you is like, no, we have to go back and do those things because it feels incomplete to you because you know what the things that were taken out. So there's that part too, where you want to like keep adding to this game, and maybe one day it'll get to the point, but that's not really feasible because you can't just take every single dollar you have and put it back in a game that it's not making money anymore. So there's a balance there. So we feel like we have a good DLC plan, and we've been working on DLC. But the big problem we're going through now is the server upgrade. So we've been going through the Unreal Engine upgrade, which because
you're updating the game engine, right? Not even the servers.
The whole engine. And we can't really do anything until that's completed.
Right.
So we're kind of a holding pattern right now with all the JSON X and the Grindel map and all those things.
Well, that was the thing is like, you know, I thought even in the time when servers are on fire, everything, you guys were doing the right thing. And I've talked to you off camera about this, right? That we learned the hard way as well of how to communicate. It's not about having good news. It's about having any news and telling you what's going on. And it was, I think that you guys came out with that DLC roadmap. It was, you know, it was really well done, I thought, and you saw you checking boxes, and then we got somewhere installed, and I forget what crook of the map we saw that, and there was the silence, and I did see the subreddit of like they promised private servers forever ago, and what's going on? And so it was all about the game engine.
Yes, that the engine is the hold up because we knew dedicated servers are our biggest issue, but we couldn't do anything about it for the longest time. So like. The lighting tech wouldn't work on the new Unreal. We had to wait for them to catch up. But on the Unreal version we were on didn't do dedicated. So no matter what we did at that point, it was going to cause a problem.
Right.
And then we had DLC we were working on that we couldn't upgrade the engine while you're doing that because that causes problems to your DLC because it may not work.
Always fun,
So there, at that crooked part of the roadmap was when we hit a snag. We go, okay, we have to announce an engine upgrade, but we couldn't do it because we didn't have the time frame in mind. So
Yeah.
that's why there was like silence there. And sometimes you feel like the more you communicate, the more people get mad. So we put this roadmap out, and if you miss one date, people just get mad at you. And
that when you put it out, I was like, "Ooh, this is a bold thing to do,"
it is,
because
but
they
we
are
felt
now
we
going to hold
we
your feet
felt
to the
we
fire.
needed to give people answers. Like,
Yeah.
okay, let's just tell them what we're working on. That'll make them happy, right? And they did, but
Yeah.
then unfortunately schedules get changed.
Sure.
And then some people are just instantly mad. Or what's that mean? You said you promised us this. I'm like, this ain't a promise. This is just a roadmap of what we're working on. So, but it's okay because I mean, I don't want to sound like the pity case up here.
Oh, no.
Like the customers, they had a right to be mad. The game doesn't work when it comes out. As a consumer, I've been there. Of course, I'm on the inside, so a lot of my friends make those games. So I don't go yell at my friends that their game's not working.
I mentioned this as of recording this. It'll go up later. Sea of Thieves launched on Tuesday, and it's Wednesday now.
Yeah.
And I saw when their servers were melting,
Yeah.
Wes put out a thing of like, I feel for you guys.
Exactly.
I understand
Yeah.
where you're at more than you think I might.
I mean, let's think about that. That's Microsoft.
I know, right? Yeah, exactly. Even like when Destiny or Diablo came out and shit the bed, it's like, that's Blizzard. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, these are the problems of modern gaming, of you think you know what it's up and you do a beta test and you do all this stuff, but then you get out and there's this weird memory leak you never thought of, or somebody puts these two items together and that crashes everything.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just trying to see the future, but if you don't have 100 people trying to see the future, if it's just 3 of you trying to see, you only see what you can see at that point.
Well,
Plus, you're trying to balance budget and get the game out on time. And if you're a small company, time is money, and you're just like, what do you do?
Well, I appreciate that you have been open about it. In the fact that I do think, you shut down for a little bit there, and it was the dick, and I did see the subreddit get really mad, but when you guys did resurface and be like, hey guys, here's the shitty answer, right? We're upgrading the engine, we can't do anything. It seemed like that calmed the hardest of the hard, and the vocal minority I always talk about, right?
They'll always be there.
Yeah, exactly. And like good and bad, right? But the people who are on any subreddit, our subreddit, that are super active and wanting to have a conversation, they're the most passionate, so they're going to have the most, feelings about anything that's happening.
Yeah.
And I saw that was good. And I really appreciated myself as a fan when you guys came out and talked about, and I forget what's the name of the blue mode you were talking about?
Paranoia.
Paranoia, where I saw that pop and you were working on it, and I was like, I was watching the Jason movies, and I was like, oh, it's gonna be who is the killer? Nobody knows who the killer is. That's gonna be great. And you put out, and then it was quiet for a long time, and then you guys finally surfed and was like, hey, the mode isn't fun.
Yeah. See, like, at what point do you tell people about that mode? Like, we wanted to tell people about it, and we did.
Yeah.
And if you wait until it's fun or the very last minute, then you spring it on them and it comes out a week later.
Sure.
So we really wanted to tell people about it and get people excited, but then we kept playing it, and it just wasn't fun.
Yeah.
So what do? Release a game mode that sucks?
Yeah.
No one wants that,
Right.
So, but I'll say this, like at that time, just until recently, we hired Daniel Nixon. He worked at Ubisoft on like Assassin's Creed and all these cool games. So he's our new community guy. Poor Ben, the previous guy, he didn't work in social media for 20 years.
Yeah.
So there's really no plan for every single scenario that comes your way when you're dealing with Facebook, Twitter, and Reddit and Discord. So that's not a job for one person.
Yeah.
So a lot of our communication problems weren't because we didn't want to communicate.
No. Yeah.
It's like, how can you even get to every single message? And it's a difficult thing. So we have Daniel on board now, so he's running that front, and he's being very upfront and direct with people, which is good.
2 years ago when we were struggling to communicate, I think like a year and a half ago, whatever, it was the conversation of, we always felt like we were right about where we needed to be. So let's not communicate something we think we're going to have fixed or, change in a little bit. We're going to have this working the way it should be. And when it wouldn't happen, the silence is we're kicking the can on where the fuck Kind of Funny Live is, because we, and it said, well, I don't know.
And meanwhile, you want to tell people,
Yeah.
but at the same time, you're like, man, if we do, what are you going to give them, another date?
Yeah, exactly.
So
Exactly.
at some point, you have to be quiet just to try to work, but then people get angry. They think you're ignoring them.
Yep, exactly.
You guys are just taking the money and running. You're a bunch of thieves, or you hate us, or you don't like this game. You moved on to another game.
Really, I remember that. Yeah, there was some rumor that you guys had
Elphonics had been working on it. That game, the Dead Alliance game, they were working on that game before Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
Like, that was a separate publishing deal. So, they didn't move on to Dead Alliance. But, of course, the press writes that headline, and it's true.
Yeah.
Elphonic moves on to the new game. I'm like, did you even do any research? Like, did you even call anybody?
Well, no, what they did is story developing. You put that, we've reached out for a comment.
Story developing. I'm like, okay, you need like a magnifying glass to see that part.
They'll put the update on later. Just update it.
It doesn't matter because the damage is done by then, though.
Yeah, of course.
So anyway, that's okay. But so, it is what it is.
So where are we now with Friday the 13th then?
We are in limbo.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the game is still there.
The game's
going.
We
have cool
play
DLC that came out, and people are enjoying it. But our main focus is finally getting dedicated servers in. But the engine upgrade is the one thing that we can't do dedicated on our current version of Unreal.
Right.
It just doesn't support it.
Sure.
So, which is always a problem with using a new engine.
Yeah.
Like Unreal is the best thing in the world, but it's not their job to hand you an a la carte. Like,
Cool. When
check
you
box.
plug this in.
What do you need?
Click that box and it'll
Do
update
you need
everything.
VoIP?
Yeah.
Do you need awesome lighting? Do you need dedicated servers? Those are things you have to build yourself.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
so,
So do you have a timetable for that now?
or April, maybe.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay,
So
maybe.
it's not, yeah. So not too far away probably, but we still, once again, I don't want to give a date because
Again, though, I mean, like, I hear you, and I know you put April on there somewhere. Now, the headliner.
I think we've already said that. Daniel won't kill
I know
me.
that.
Yeah, Daniel won't kill me, thank God.
But I think it's the thing of you're doing it the right way, again, by talking and
Yeah.
being human, right? Because that's the thing that gets lost when it is that I've bought this box game from Walmart, which next to all these other guys that are just corporations and companies that don't give a flying fuck about us, we feel, you know what I mean? You go and it doesn't work, this, that, and the other, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So then once that's done, are you back to your roadmap of trying to get Jason X out and trying to get us to stuff?
Yeah. So we got some.
Hold, real quick. If you are a podcast listener, that siren is happening here. It happens often where people are listening in their cars and start pulling over or looking around. That's us. That's us.
That's a good
Sorry.
point.
Sorry. We're on a very busy connection street here in San Francisco.
It's okay.
I
So
wasn't
we're at the
apologizing.
point where like, then it'll be back to updating the roadmap and continue to work on the stuff that we know we wanted to do. So it's just we have some third-party companies that are working on some stuff for us too,
Yeah,
that not all development is stopped.
Yeah.
Because the truth is, it takes almost the entire Ilphonic staff to do these dedicated servers and upgrade because it affects every department.
Yeah.
When you upgrade your engine, it affects every single art, animation, everything. So
Video
it's
games
not
are
like-
all variables, and I couldn't take it, man. I couldn't take it.
Ilphonic, I couldn't do what they do.
Yeah.
Like the amount of pressure and the amount of work they've done on this game has been incredible, especially for a game that had like a $5 million budget, which is like EA's coffee money. Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, it seems like a lot of money, but in game dev terms, it's not. And you know, especially if you have to delay your game like we did, you know, that's my favorite actually thing I want to get out there.
Sure.
When people say just delay your game, why do they delay it? I don't think people really know what that means.
Yeah.
Because as a consumer 20 years, I didn't know.
Yeah.
When you delay a game, if you're dev studio, I'm gonna throw a random number out there. If it costs $100,000 for them to run, and you delay your game 6 months, do you think those employees work for free?
Exactly.
They don't.
Yeah.
But there's a conception or a misconception out there that, hey, just delay your game and it doesn't cost more. These aren't people that live in their basement. They don't have bills.
Right.
You have a family. People have families and rent, and there's a studio you have to pay. So if you delay your game 6 months, you better have $600,000 to make up for it.
Yeah.
And if you don't, you better go out and get funding.
Yeah.
So, you know, we did have to delay our game too. So that was one thing we had to go through too, which
Sure.
was awesome.
Well, that's the big. I mean, the problem with it is how do you make it all work and just spin the plates and get it out and like there's been so many conversations of I released the game incomplete, but you get the money to put back into the game, and but like you're saying, that's not instantaneous. It isn't.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. We sold this much on the first week, so now I'm taking this money that hasn't been. I'm pretty sure if I remember correctly from other sources, you don't have to confirm it. It's like a month before you ever get any money from.
You ever
Sony.
heard of like Net 60? Or
Oh,
Net
yeah,
90?
no, I know that on my contracts.
You do.
My
exactly.
contracts. Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's why I brought it up.
Yeah, exactly.
Same.
Yeah. If you don't know what that means, and when you sign, like when Kind of Funny will sign a deal, and I'll go host the DICE Awards, we'll put them on net 30 or whatever, which means from the day we invoice you, 30 days till the payment. Yeah.
So in some companies, not particularly in the video, but some people play quarterly,
Yeah.
4 times a year.
No, I can't do that. No.
So it's all dependent, but you don't get the money day one. So like, man, we have all these awesome DLC that got cut from the game, or we barely got the game out of time without running out of money.
Yeah.
We can take some of the money and put it back in the game, but you can't even start that process until you get paid.
Yeah.
So already for the first couple months, you still only have the money you had when you finished your game, which is why a lot of games run out of steam and you see them not update their game because they're out of money.
Yeah.
They spend every single dollar, especially if they're a small company like indies. I'm surprised that indie games don't get delayed more. Like that is the hardest thing to do is to take. And you've seen this through Kickstarter.
Sure.
People run out of money.
Yeah,
And the game is put on indefinitely.
yeah.
Because they didn't plan for that last 6 months of feature creep where you start changing your game halfway through and all of a sudden you're out of money and you can't even finish your game and they can't go get funding because no one wants to loan them money.
Yep.
So they cancel it. So it's a big problem in the indie world because AAA developers, they can just take money from another project.
Right.
And fund like the year delay or whatever. But it's costly.
So this brings up an interesting question I have for you guys. When you think of Friday the 13th, what do you think of outside of the roadmap in terms of support, right? Because as somebody who's new, this is, I think, this was my first big Marvel Heroes, sure, a little bit of Destiny before, but this is the one that I got invested in, right? Of like,
Yep.
I'm all in, and I think your trophy list sucks, but I hope one day I get close to having them all. I'd love you to update it. Just saying, you know, I'd like to play that much. I'd like to play it for years to come. Like, but do you see it that way, or what do you think in terms of games of service, in terms of Friday the 13th longevity?
So there's always the problem of the longer your game's on the market, the less it sells.
Diminishing return, right? Yeah,
exactly. So then you take, especially if you take $4 or $5, $10 million and put that into DLC, you're not getting that money back.
Sure.
But as fans, we don't care. It's because we care more about the product than we do our bank accounts. So we're like, no, we're going to take a lot of money and put it back in this game, even though there's not a lot of people buying it at this point, or at that point a year from now.
Yeah.
But you still do it because that's the right thing to do. Most companies, or some companies, wouldn't do that at all. They would just launch the game and put out like one DLC pack and be done because they know they're not getting a return.
Yeah.
But then you have to pay for servers, which is a big deal. You pay monthly
the
servers.
ongoing cost of
the
that,
ongoing
right?
cost of servers, but yet people aren't using those servers. So you're paying more than the people are playing.
Yeah.
So that's why you see games, you know, EA or someone will cancel a game, you know, that's 3 years old, and you're like, oh, well, no one's playing it.
Exactly.
But there will still be some people who are playing it who are mad. So I really can't give you a good answer on that. We want to support it as long as we can.
Yeah.
But at some point, if you're paying $100,000 a month in servers and you're not making money, you can't just be homeless because you wanted to keep the game going.
Yeah.
It's a problem with multiplayer games in general.
Yeah.
It's an ongoing question for the last 10 years now that everything's online. How do you keep a game alive forever?
And then what happens when it does die? You know what I mean? I brought up Marvel Heroes a second ago, right? Yeah. That was the thing where like as a part of that community where it was like, cool, it's closing, and it's closing like now. You're like, oh my fucking God, really?
Especially with like Final Fantasy 11, I remember when that closed and I was in there, and I didn't really know that about servers and things. I was just oh, don't close my game.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's kind of what you deal with when you make a multiplayer game. You want it to live on forever, but the truth is it can't.
Yeah.
So we're hoping our single player will help fill that void for the people that continue want to play our game.
Yeah.
So we're doing the single player challenges and missions, and they're coming soon. So we're making good progress on those.
Cool.
So,
you've already added other stuff too, obviously, like virtual cabin, offline play, and you got bots.
Yeah, the virtual cabin was one thing that actually we went back and just as ourselves, man, we gotta make this better. Yeah. So we just did. Yeah, we took our resources and just had another team work on it, and they just did it. So people love the virtual cabin, the new one. So let's go.
Okay. I want to kick it over to the experts.
Let's do it.
On the Friday the 13th game subreddit. Again, as I posted here, I pointed out, longtime lurker, thanks for all the content. Because I'm one of those guys, I'm subscribed to a lot of subreddits, but it's rare that I chime in on them. Because it is very much like, what are you doing over here? Okay. Yeah. Tell me about this Snyder Cut DC Cinematic Universe. Anyways, you can join their subreddit, r/F13 the game. Right now, I'm refreshing. Yeah. Most upvoted one here is from Garadon, who says, are there plans to add new escape routes in either future or currently available maps? Which is interesting. I don't want that. I like how it is. People are already figuring out their own things. I don't want that. Just
you would be surprised how quickly counselors can escape if you add even one more. Yeah, you would be surprised at the shift in balance that
I can't get variables of trying to balance this stuff.
One little new escape route. If we were to do a third or a fourth, you would be shocked at what it does to gameplay. Now, early on in development, we had these ideas and we did some things. We had multiple routes. It wasn't a particularly different one. It was just more of, and people just got out quick. Yeah. So there's a lot of balance that has to go into even something as simple as that.
Sure.
So
even now with like, just the variable of where, like, on how the main road you have, which side the cops are going to show up on.
Yeah, it's like one of two places.
Yeah, and it sounds like, oh, that's not that much, but like that 50-50 of being a counselor and waiting in the bushes, like, where the fuck is it going to be? And then being Jason of like, where the fuck I have to warp to.
Now, put a third one in there.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, it wouldn't be too much, but actually it affects a lot of things. Yeah. Jason morphs to the wrong one, he's done. Like, he'll never catch you with the other two.
Exactly, yeah.
So 2 was the right number, and we experimented with a lot. So I would say no. For now.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, just to be honest, no.
No, thank you for being honest. That's brilliant. Dante Mir. I'm bad if the names aren't intercapped. It's hard to do. Dante Mir says, I'd like to suggest one. Currently, the game is awaiting a big patch to upgrade the game engine for Friday the 13th. Once that upgrade is done, are there plans for new game modes? What do they consist of? I know you're not going to go to what they consist of, but the mode didn't go the way you wanted to, right?
I wouldn't. I mean, we haven't officially canceled Paranoia at this point. So
still tinkering.
It's still there. Yeah. I mean, but the resources that it takes to make that game mode better currently are being divided up against, the engine upgrade and all that stuff. And then we have single player also that we're making. So it's a matter of spreading out your resources. Do you want to put everything on Paranoia? or do you want to do the engine upgrade and
Yeah.
dedicated servers and single player, which we promised already single player. Paranoia was never a promised thing. That
Sure.
was something
It was like a tease you guys.
yeah,
were
we
doing.
wanted
Yeah,
to do, but it was never like on the roadmap, and it was never a Kickstarter goal. It was just something we did just to fill our time in. So I would say there's always a chance we can go back to it
Yeah.
if it becomes fun. But beyond that, another game mode, if you're thinking of Call of Duty or Battlefield where you in the main menu and it's like Conquest versus Deathmatch, probably not in terms of that. So if we did anything, it'd be Paranoia. So
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the thing about Friday the 13th is that I love the game. I think it's great at what it does.
Yeah.
And I really don't look to it and go, man, I'd love this as well. Like even single player, I'm like, that's not really for me. Or the bot stuff. I'm like, nah, I want to play with my friends.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't think every game needs that.
Yeah.
And luckily, I think we're one of the games that don't. Like Battlefield, yeah.
Sure.
Those games do. You need a variety in. But I think these horror experiences are, it's you and surviving against a killer. You don't want killer versus killer. You don't want to see 8 Jasons running around trying to like fight each other.
Yeah.
People do.
Yeah.
But it's not, I don't know we'd want to do that. Like that's, I don't think the IP would be comfortable with that too.
Yeah.
We have
Yeah.
What's lost in this is we have to consider them too.
Sure. They have rights in this. Yeah. And
they trust us completely.
Sure.
This whole process, they've been incredible. In fact, they've been like, I can't believe you know more about this franchise than we do, or just as much.
Yeah.
Like, they feel completely safe, but still, we have to run it by them. I don't think that would make it.
True Boredom says, what's the plan for the update for Retro Jason? What is the plan for buffing Part 7 Jason?
Yeah.
And then BGF, Big Fancy, but no thing said, please include this one, Greg. So
Yeah, so I know exactly who this person is. And we appreciate your thoughts about J7. We are trying to plan something for him. We're trying to get to him. Unfortunately, things like buffing a particular Jason are a little lower on the totem pole when it comes to, like if I was to have to stop and say, hey, producer or gameplay designer, stop and make J7 good and all the ramifications of that.
Yeah.
He'd like, dude, I'm doing dedicated servers or we're doing art and animation and like,
again,
the team is out
30
of resources.
people or whatever. Yeah.
The team is out of resources. Like I can't grab the intern and make him do this. It's not a thing you can do. So it's on the list. Yeah. And retro is something that is actually a lot more complicated to make him his own Jason because each Jason has to have new kills. And in order to get new kills, you have to mocap. In order to go to a mocap studio, you have to rent it and plan 8, 6, 7 months in advance and get Kane Hodder and all the stuntmen back.
Yeah.
Then you have to get Tom Savini or myself or someone to design new kills. So even something as making retro his own Jason, selectable in the menus with new perks, he has to have new kills. That is the biggest holdup of adding new Jasons and things like that is, first of all, it takes like 4 months to get the Jason in game from start to scratch, but you have to go get new kills, which isn't something we can just do. Those are all mocapped. So
gotcha.
That's really the main holdup for retro.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
And see, that's what I'm talking about where it's like, I don't feel like an expert at all in this game, right? I'm like level 37, 8, I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like you talk to that and I'm like, I'm totally fine with Retro Jason being a skin. I don't think about it, but like the fans love it.
It was something we wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I think we even said we were planning on doing it. I think Wes may even said we're going to do it, but then we're like, fuck, man. We got new Jasons in the pipeline. Each one of those takes 3 to 4 months to make.
Yeah.
Then you have to go to mocap and get new kills and you have to put them in the game and get blood going and camera angles. It is
I remember that. I remember when there was like you guys talked in some interview about somebody wanted a young Jason in there.
Yeah.
Like, and you guys were like,
They
hey,
still do.
That and sure, that's a great idea and that's awesome, but like all the kills are animated for Jason to be 8 feet tall.
Yeah, that
so
was
like,
me. I was like, sorry to disappoint you, but a 4-foot Jason is not going to lift.
Yeah.
And some guy goes, that's because you're lazy. I'm like, yeah, that's it. Yeah. I'm like, we're lazy, dude. No, it has to do with physics. And like 4-foot Jason couldn't even lift the counselor off the ground. Their feet would still be on the ground. All of our kills come from the
height
lifted
advantage.
position. And that's a gameplay back end thing. So when Jason grabs you and lifts you, then the kills are activated. And they're all designed and animated from that starting point. You can't just change it up. Like that's why we have grab kills and we have contextual kills around the map. Like those are all on purpose.
I feel, you tell me, I feel it's safe to say that like what Friday the 13th the game is and it is out now is this is the base, this is the toolbox, right? Like we can't deviate that much from any of this stuff. Like this is what it is and this is the toy box game we've set up and like that's who these characters are, that's how it plays.
Yeah, it's like building a house. You can't go back and take out the bottom
Redo
foundation.
the foundation.
Yeah, like people give the Dead by Daylight guys a really hard time because they don't have kills in their game. Right?
Yeah.
And like, why don't you just add kills like Friday 13th? And like, no, they can't.
That's not our foundation.
You can't go back to the foundation. So I hear that a lot on their thing too. It's like, or someone will go to Fortnite or Battlefield and say, why don't you just do what they do? It's in theory, it's a good idea, but you're messing with the structure.
Yeah, the train's out of the station.
Yeah,
right?
so to
That's
have Kid Jason in our game, first of all, you can't murder kids. Okay, so
I can.
you can't have a 12-year-old Jason or whatever running around and then you kill him.
Yeah.
So that means now you can't kill Jason because the ESRB wouldn't even let us kill a kid Jason.
Yeah.
So now the killing option's gone? Now you can only escape in our game? So that changes our game completely. Just that one little option of having him in the game. So
ASDFX 500. Will we ever see a rebalancing of counselor stats? Like, is that something you guys think about in terms of going in there? Because, like, I've seen it too, where it's like, there's a whole bunch of counselors I'll never fucking play as because, like, they're not. Again, that's who they are. Like, I don't, whatever. I'm just never gonna play.
That's true, and we have thought about it. But so if you look at each one of those counselors on a spreadsheet, and you line them all up, anytime you change one counselor, you have to change the other counselors too. So let's say we make La Chapa really fast all of a sudden. Well, that's not going to be a good thing because he can fix stuff really good. Yeah. And now he's going to be running really fast. That's a deadly combination. So just bumping him up in speed or giving him more composure or something. Now you have 5 counselors with an 8 out of 10 composure. That's a bad thing. So it's like looking at a spreadsheet.
Right.
So just changing one counselor actually affects other ones.
Sure, yeah.
And then all of a sudden, maybe he's not that guy anymore. It's an archetype, which is the real...
And that's the thing, right? You want him to be the stereotypical horror movie character.
So really, that's why we haven't.
Yeah.
So just because...
Yeah, for me, when I look at somebody, I'm like, oh, well, she's bad at repair, he's bad at running or whatever. I'm like, well, he's the fat nerd like me. Yeah, he shouldn't be good at it. You know what I mean? Like, I understand that I'm role playing to an extent.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of why we haven't touched it.
Okay. So. A couple people in here are asking, like, would Never Hike Alone content ever make it over there? Is that because that's the fan film, right? That's
first of all, I love those guys. I hang out with them. Vinny and those guys that never
right, don't rub it in our face that you're popular.
No. They, they're really cool dudes, and that is a fan passion project, and I give them all the respect in the world. But the problem is, it's a fan film.
Yeah.
Here's what happens: as soon as you put their Jason in our game, what do you think happens, Greg?
The people who are the actual owners of the license are going to be pretty pissed.
If that Jason was in our game?
Now that's canon. Guess
canon.
what? We're accepting this movie as canon.
There you go.
Okay.
So if you think lawyers are going to let that happen, and even good lawyers like Warner Brothers and everyone's not going to let another one kind of sneak in. Yeah. It's from the outside looking in, I can see why people would want that. Sure. I would like to have him in there too. And I already told Vinny to his face I would love to do it. But now then it's recognized as official canon, which, as you know, working on anything with IP, it's a very hard thing to do. So I'm going to go ahead and just say no. I'm very sorry to disappoint you. But that ain't never going to happen.
That's a great response and makes sense, I think. Yeah. And then Ismon asked a question I should ask a long time ago. What exactly does the engine upgrade entail? It looks better. It runs better. It's more stable. I assume.
So it allows you to do things like ACR. It allows you to have more processing power because it's more streamlined. It, for one, gives us dedicated servers.
Yeah.
So
that's the big one. That's the big one.
When Jason quits or the host quits per se, the game's not over, which is good. Which is our biggest problem.
Yeah. Being able to push the host to somebody else.
Xbox will perform better.
Yeah.
So
there was a question here about what's going on with Xbox.
Yeah. So it's the engine upgrade is going to help us all those. So it'll look better. It's going to perform better. Yeah. Anytime you have a new engine, they make improvements, so they streamline everything. But really, it's the dedicated servers why we have to do it. We could never get those without it.
Of course.
So, and with that comes a lot of cool other things. But it touches, like I said, every single department almost. So it's not like, oh, just hit a button and export. Ooh, new engine, half the shit breaks, animations don't line up anymore, art looks weird. You're like, what is that? It's not rendering lighting right. So it's a lot of stuff.
Makes sense.
Yeah, which is why it takes so long.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'd like to think I don't take for granted how blessed I am on a daily basis, just with my life in general, and like the how lucky I am to have Kind of Funny and all these best friends and stuff. But when people started complaining about the host migration and people quitting Jason, and I was just like, oh right, that never happens to me because I'm lucky enough to tweet out who wants to play Friday the 13th, and all these kids want to play with me, and I'm just in there and I don't have to worry about anybody quitting me.
I mean, I hate watching a game and then seeing that happen.
Yeah, somebody troll each other.
It hurts me so bad to see people get disconnected from the game. So it's not like we don't want to fix it. Believe me, the whole team's like cringing every time it happens, and we're like, oh, it feels so bad that this shit is happening. So it just takes a while to do, and unfortunately, it wasn't their launch. So, yeah.
Thank you so much for making this game. I'm sure you guys don't get told that enough by the.
Well, I mean, no. Let me just be clear. We have so many people that tell us that all the time.
Yeah.
But you also have thousands and thousands of people who hate you and want to kill you.
But the hate, I feel like the hate is driven from a place of love, right? Where it's like, it's the same thing I always talk about where, for me, the vocal minority at IGN was always the people in the comments who want me to die. But then you go to a PAX and everybody's like, oh, so amazing, and we love you, and it's great. And I was like, oh, right. I forget that, like, it's when you're angry about something, you're so much more motivated to post about it and talk about it and pop off. And I've done it about the game even when like it won't work and we're fucking mad here.
I remember that tweet where one was like, this shit doesn't work or something. I was like, you don't even know what that felt like on our end. I was like, no, fuck no.
Yeah.
He's trying to play the game.
Yeah.
Oh my God, this is horrible.
Yeah.
So yeah. But yeah, no, we have tons of fans, dude. Like, love them. Because we are Friday 13 fans.
Yeah.
And it's good. We have handwritten letters, more than you can count, from people that have told us how, oh my God, my dad was dying, and this was like, he loved the movies, and we play it every night together. And like, emotional things like that from these fans, it's incredible. Yeah. Like, it's awesome.
Yeah.
So,
well, Ronnie, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, dude. I appreciate you coming on.
Have a great GDC.
I'm considering it.
Okay, good. Thank you.
You too.
And then go finish the engine.
Well, luckily, Ilphonic's doing that.
Okay.
See, right now, there's probably someone saying, why don't you stop doing interviews?
Yeah, right.
And go fix the game.
He should have spent this interview time working on the game, giving me new counselors.
I'm like, you don't want me fixing the game. I promise.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's okay, though.
All right.
Ilphonic's on the case.
Good.
We got it.
Cool. Put a kind of funny shirt in the game. What do you say, huh?
Dude.
Not this. This is no clip.
I don't even have a kind of funny shirt.
I sent a bunch.
I'm just kidding.
You son of a bitch.
You did send us shirts.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's go back to the Gamescast. And I'm telling you another one, 10 out of 10. You know what I mean? That was good? Thank you, Kev. See, I'm coming in here and I'm just swinging for the fences. They call me a young Barry Bonds. You know what I mean? Where I've just started taking the steroids. Like, I had a great career before. Now I've started taking them. They're like, how? He's only getting older and better. How is that possible? And it's steroids. That's how it's possible. And so in the end, it won't end well for me. But like in the moment, it's pretty fucking great. Just an asterisk. Well, I mean, nobody talks to him anymore, I feel like. You know, you never hear about Barry Bonds anymore. Mark McGuire, see, whatever happened to him. You know? That's a good point. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen, on patreon.com/kindoffunnygames. This has been your early access to part of the Kind of Funny Gamescast, episode 476. Kevin told me beforehand, and I completely forgot. 167. I apologize. I was a little bit off. So yeah, like I said, come back Monday, youtube.com/kindoffunnygames, or podcast services around the globe. You will get the embargoed preview we're not allowed to give you now. But you already got the interviews now, so you can go tell your friends, man, that Greg Miller guy's got it. You know, just tweet it right now. Every tweet at Garfep, you know, and then, you remember Garfep. Greg always regrets fucking elderly people. And say, you know what? Greg Miller still got it. That's it. No context, don't tag me. Every tweet at Garfep, no context. Greg still got it. Until next time, thank you for your support on patreon.com/kindoffunnygames. And no, it's been our pleasure to serve you. Enjoy God of War. If you're not playing God of War, that's a huge fucking mistake. Get off your ass. What's that? You would play God of War, but you gave the $60 you'd spend on God of War to us on patreon.com/kindoffunny. I apologize. That's a great idea. Great idea.